Welcome back to another episode of Time Out with the Sports Doctor podcast, where life, sports, and medicine intersects. We are glad that you are part of this growing community where we strive to help you strengthen your mindset, help you grow your assets, and help you achieve whatever level of success that you want for your life. Go to our website at Dr.Derrick, thesportsdoctor.com, where you can find all the latest content, and you can also follow us on our social media channels. Now, let's get into this episode. Welcome back to another episode of Time Out with the Sports Doctor podcast. And I hope your week is off to a great start. We are in full swing at spring. It's baseball season, it's softball season. It's a really busy time of the year for our family with kids playing both sports, as well as being really busy at work as well. So I know this is a time when people are moving all over. School is coming to a close, getting ready for transitions and graduation and all the different things. So I really appreciate the time that we get to spend together here on this podcast. And I really appreciate those who have been here for now almost 5 years. So today I want to speak on something that is very important and probably something that I have not spoken on enough on this podcast. And that's really just kind of sharing my journey as a physician. So over the last couple of weeks, a few things have happened to really make me understand how much people do not really know about the practice of medicine and what we go through as physicians to get to the point where we are. So the first thing, if you follow medicine closely, or if you're on social media at all, about 2 weeks ago, Dr. Iggy announced that I'm stepping away from medicine, or I'm leaving medicine. You know, people took it as I'm leaving medicine forever. But what he really said is I'm stepping away from medicine for a short period of time. Now, from that, I knew that there was a lot of talk in the medical community, in the orthopedic surgery community. What I did not realize is the ripple effect of how many people were actually speaking on this just across the world, from not just doctors, but comedians, just content creators across the board were speaking on him leaving medicine and giving their opinion on what he should not do. As you notice, there was no post from me. What did I do? I reached out to the person who I know closely just to check in and see, how are you doing? And talk like we typically do, not to try to get clicks, which is what I think a lot of people were doing. But it made me realize, because people were saying, why would you leave medicine if that's what's going to pay you, and this, that, and the third, not really even understanding the process of becoming a doctor, a young surgeon, going through fellowship, getting a first job. So there was an uproar about somebody who actually took control of his own destination and said, hey, I'm going to take a break. I need a break. Many of us need a break, but we feel like we never can take a break. So there was an uproar about somebody in control of their destiny, but is there an uproar about those who are not in control of their own destiny? Those that are being released from jobs, those that are being fired from residency training programs, the people who have invested so much and many times never even get to do the career that they dreamt of doing. Where's the uproar about that? Where's the uproar about physician burnout? Where's the uproar about people having to sell the practices that they worked so hard to build because they cannot withstand the current restraints of this economy and current medical practice? So we are upset about someone when they take control of how their life is run, but we're not upset about when lives are being destroyed or altered by systems failures. So I reached out, and one of the main things I said is, I've been there. During my first year, I had to leave my job under different circumstances, right? So, and I just didn't have 500,000 people who were my followers and really cared, right? So be careful when we judge people is kind of the first thing. And then the other thing, as we know, the picture that people all know, right? There was an uproar about Donald Trump being portrayed as a savior, but he said, no, I'm a doctor. I'm a doctor. I was acting like I was a doctor because I help people. I help many people. I'm a doctor. And the picture, as you've seen, I'm sure, There's hands laid out on a person. There's, light coming from hands, almost to signify a miracle healing being done. So that's not typically what doctors do, right? We practice science, we have interventions, we have surgical procedures. And in my mind, I'm the hands and feet of Jesus, right? I am here to help carry out a role. I'm not a savior. I pray that I can help people through the practice of medicine, but it is the practice of medicine. It is not an exact science. The surgical procedures evolve and change over years. And at many times you can do your best to help someone and they still don't get better. And I think that's the reality of medicine versus the myth that you walk into the room and you can stretch your hands out and everybody's going to be better. And that's one of the hard things about being a doctor is dealing with the fact that no matter what you do, sometimes everyone cannot be saved. No matter what you do, sometimes people will sometimes have adverse outcomes. And no matter what you do, the best of your ability, you cannot force that person to go through the other necessary steps to have a great outcome, all of which can be very frustrating. So what I want to do is share kind of my personal story of the training process, as well as now I'm closing out 13 years of practice as an orthopedic surgeon. Yeah, I know it doesn't look like it, right? So I still get, hey, are you old enough to be my doctor? I'm like, at this point, we don't even have this conversation because I've been doing this now for 13 years and I went to school into my early 30s. So yes, I'm plenty old enough to be your doctor. But I don't think people really understand some of the sacrifices that we make early on. So anytime I'm speaking to my mentees that are going into finishing undergrad, going into medical school, I really try to emphasize the fact that nobody is going to understand what you're going through. Not your family, eventually the people who are in your home or the people who you interact with daily will really understand. But when you tell people, tell mom, hey, I won't make it home for Thanksgiving because I got to stay at school and study. Or, hey, I won't be able to make your wedding shower, your birthday party because I have a test coming up this weekend. It's always, yeah, I understand you have a test, but like no one really believes that you literally, when you're going into a test weekend, every moment of your life is surrounded by studying and preparing for that test. Whether you are in a book, whether you are eating, or whether you are taking a nap or sleeping for a short period of time and then waking up, getting right back into that. It's hard for people to really grasp the amount of dedication and time that it takes to get through medical school. And then once you get through those first 2 years, you're transitioning to the clinical wards to learn how to actually be a doctor, right? So now you're doing all the different rotations, general surgery, pediatrics, internal medicine, psychiatry, OBGYN. You're being exposed to all of it. And then you come to the end of the career, end of your medical school, finally graduation time and the match, right? We've spoken about the match. So for me, the match, first time did not get into orthopedic surgery. So I did an internship in general surgery and then kept working, re-interviewed while working, and then was fortunate enough to match into orthopedic surgery at Howard University Hospital. So completed that 5 years and did a 1-year fellowship in sports medicine at Cincinnati Sports Medicine Orthopedic Center. And now I'm ready to get a new job, right? So now I'm ready for my first job at the age of 33 years old. Are you a young physician who's frustrated in figuring out how you're going to continue to fund yourself through this early phase of your career? Are you tired of speaking to lenders who do not understand your plight? We have a solution for you. Let me introduce you to Doc2Doc Lending.
Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Zawadi Marshall, co-founder, CEO of Doc2Doc Lending. We are the exclusive lending partner for physicians and dentists in the United States. We underwrite our loans thoughtfully, knowing the physician journey and your career trajectory. We're a company that's been founded by doctors and built for doctors because we get it. Banks don't understand all the ways in which we struggle through educational debt, consumer debt, as we're trying to make ends meet during a very challenging time of our lives. Doc2Doc is underwritten with thoughtful process that's meant to give you credit for all the unique physician characteristics that you have, like being board certified, having a dual degree, undergoing and finishing a specialty or a fellowship as well, and just being employed as a physician. All of those things give you credit to get your interest rate lower with our platform.
So we are glad to partner with Doc2Doc Lending. So if you are stuck trying to figure out where you can get funding or where you can continue to support your family during this time of transition in your career, we offer you a solution. Doc2Doc Lending, physician owned, understands your plight, understands what it's like to be an early physician or a physician who wants to do something outside of medicine. Check out Doc2Doc Lending. This segment is a paid advertisement for Doc2Doc Lending, Inc. Loans are made available by DR Bank, member FDIC, and are subject to credit approval and available in approved states only. Representative APRs for Doc2Doc range from 9.99% to 26.99%. Terms and conditions available at Doc2DocLending.com. So delayed gratification is something that we are taught and that it is pushed. Hey, don't worry, it's coming. That golden day is coming. Delayed gratification. And you just continue to kick that ball down the block. While your friends who you graduated undergrad with a decade ago have already been working, starting life, having family, having careers, paying down debt, investing, all the things that you had to delay for a decade. So it's a lot, right? So that's why when we go into a room, I'm sure that any physician that's been in practice has had this scenario where you walk in and you're talking to the patient and you're talking to the family, and there's a person in the corner of the room and they look at you and they are dead serious and they said, I should have did what you did. You know, remember I used to talk about being a doctor. I should have been a doctor. And it's like that awkward moment and you're just looking and you're like, sure, you should have been a doctor. Yeah, just sign up. It's just like having tryouts when you go down to the local community center. No, it's far different. It's a long process. So it's not just deciding you want to be a doctor. It's sometimes grinding it out through the tough times or surviving either the process of becoming a doctor with the long hours and the sacrifices. Now, is being a doctor a great career? Do I love what I do? Yes. Is it as glamorous as portrayed on TV? Not at all. I don't think on TV I've ever seen a doctor sitting on the phone with an insurance carrier, fighting for their patient, reading their notes, going over x-ray studies to justify the treatment that you know is the best treatment for the patient. You have to do these peer-to-peer calls and justifications for denials and denials and denials. The administrative task, that's the things that are really leading to physician burnout, not the care of the patient, not the hard work, not the things that we've been trained to do. It's all the other things that come along with medicine that are overlooked on reality TV, that are overlooked many times, even when you're in the boardroom with administrators. But it's the day-to-day task and the grind. So as I mentioned, now I'm in my 13th year. I've practiced in many different settings, trained in a large academic center. I've trained in a private practice setting, practiced in a small community hospital. I practiced in a large academic center. Pretty much at this point, I've been exposed to many phases of medicine, anything other than a private equity practice. So I have a lot of experience. I've been in the boardrooms. I've been behind the scenes. I know how the medicine side works, as well as the business side of medicine. So it is a desirable career for many, but I don't really think people understand fully what they think they want when they say, I should have been a doctor, or yeah, I'll be a doctor. So let's just kind of run through some of the myths, because yes, do doctors make a good salary? Do doctors average $350,000 a year? Yes, but also doctors on average graduate with about $220,000 of debt. That debt is there from your medical school and possibly your undergraduate training. So what happens to that debt as you continue to do your training with residency, it continues to grow from the interest, right? So about the time you start paying off debt, some people, if you're smart, residents start to make student loan payments, even if they're small, something that I did not do. So your interest on your loans, you can easily accrue another $50,000, $75,000 while you're still training. So you're left with $350,000, $400,000, a pretty nice home that you're dragging around in student loan debt. So, people think that doctors are rich, but for many times, doctors are paying down that debt for 10, 20 years after starting their career. So, debt versus the financial security that everybody thinks that a doctor has, which many times it takes you getting into your 40s before you can really achieve that. So, that's one myth versus reality. The other thing is salary. So I mentioned the average $350,000 for physicians. However, for residents, you're starting off now. For me, I started off at $39,000 and I was working 80 plus hours a week. Currently, it's probably closer in the mid 50s to low 60s. However, if you do the math, it's still minimum wage at the end of the day. So for 3 to 5 years of your career in the beginning, as your student loans are still accruing interest, you are being paid a little bit more than minimum wage for the work, important work that you're doing in a hospital, taking care of patients, learning how to take care of patients. So I think that's another part that's not really understood, as well as the training process. So every day when I go to work as an orthopedic surgeon, assistant professor, so I work in an academic center, I'm teaching medical students, residents, fellows how to do the actual job that they're training to be, right? So, what does that look like? So, when I go to work, I might have another resident or a fellow in the office with me who is seeing the patient, who's presenting the patient. We're going through the diagnosis and treatment plan as a form of teaching. Okay. When I'm in the operating room, there are residents with me. They have their role in the surgery, not necessarily doing the whole procedure, but me allowing them to do the steps in the procedure that they're ready to do at certain points in their training. So, for instance, if I'm working with a second year resident, they have a certain skill set that they need to master, versus when you come back and work with me 2 or 3 years later, there's when you should be able to start to handle the larger task of surgery. So, surgery is a gradual process, almost like an apprenticeship where you're going through multiple years, gaining techniques, gaining more insight, gaining more education on what it takes to actual be a surgeon and to do the full procedures. Now, what does it look like for a resident after they go through this full day? So you come to work, you do the procedures, you might be on call. Now, a lot of times there are night shifts and day shifts. However, after you finish your job is to go home and study. So it's not really understood. It's like you get your degree and now you're a doctor, you're a surgeon. No, for medicine is lifelong learning. And what that means is that you continue medical education classes, CME classes yearly. You continue to read the research because medicine is ever evolving. So it's not a stagnant process. You have to continue to learn. For a resident, it looks like working, 60, 80 hours a week, then going home to study another 3 to 5 hours, sometimes a day, and then sleeping, and then getting back up doing it again. So, and that can go on for 3 to 5 to 6 years, depending on your specialty. So there's a lot of time commitment to the practice of medicine to actual learn the science, the data behind everything. We're not out here just trying things. We're doing things that are data driven and that have been scientifically proven over time. So that's very important that your physician is staying up on what's new in medicine. So that's really, I'll kind of wrap it up there. But I just wanted to share some of my story and my journey, as well as the reality that yes, doctors are high earners. Yes, this is a well respected field. However, it comes along with a lot. It comes along with a lot of debt. It comes along with a lot of sacrifices, a lot of sleepless hours, a lot of burden, not just financial burden, but a lot of lost time with family members and lost time that you will never be able to regain from being in the hospital and the time devoted to your career. And really, for surgeons and for doctors, we're taking care of these sick patients, and it's hard many times to walk out of the hospital and just hit that switch. When you go home and you're still thinking about that procedure and you're still thinking about the patient, or you're on vacation and a patient just pops in the middle of your mind, or a procedure pops in your middle of your mind that you're thinking about, how is that person doing? I hope they're doing well. Or this big looming surgery that you have, and you're already thinking about what I need to do, who I need to speak to. So it's a career that truly you work not only the time that you work in the hospital and the time that you walk out of the hospital, but it is truly a commitment of your life to the practice of medicine. And so when people do things and say things like, oh, yeah, I should have just done what you're doing, or yeah, being a doctor is a great career. And when you're being, and many times, undervalued for what you're doing, it can be a lot. So be careful when you judge people that you don't really understand their path or what they're going through. So this for me is a calling, it's a passion, it's something that I love to do. It's my gift to be able to help people, but it comes along with a lot of personal sacrifices. This is not only about doctors, this is about other healthcare workers as well. We all work as a team to try to promote health for our patients, wellness for our patients, and to try to help our communities as much as possible. So that's it. Give me feedback on what you think. If there are any other topics you want to know more about, always reach out to me. Have a great week and be blessed. Thank you for continuing to support this podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, then please leave a 5-star review. And if you haven't done so, subscribe so you continue to get the updated episodes. Until later, peace.
Hey, time out with the sports doc. Keep our head right in the game. We ain't never stopping. You are now tuned in. Trust you don't want to miss. This is where life, sports, and medicine